Hey, insight number 2. Quick correction. The first one I said they're under the control of the Moabites. No, now they're under control of the Moabites. And insight number 2, the first one was Mesopotamia. Different place. Both starting with M. Got confused. It happens. Point was they were in slavery again, pretty much, or under control of. So 12 to 30 tells us of Ehud, a man called Ehud. So pretty much after the 40 years of peace that they had with Othniel, he passes away, and it just says, it doesn't say how long, but it just says literally that the children of Israel did evil again. I know, it was like, how quick was it? Because you think about it, if you don't teach your children the covenants that you keep and the things that you do, how quick is it between generation to generation that it just disappears? It's literally like 2 generations worth. It's that fast. That's why it's so important to teach children and to have come follow me in your homes, do scripture study and do all those sort of things. As I said in the last one, even if they don't want to be part of the church, they can still be really wonderful people and great citizens, no matter what they decide in life to do. And if you raise them up in that way, then you're going to be a proud parent, whether they're church people or non-church people, because they're going to be great people. Cool? Right. So, Ehud's story. He's the surprise attack in the midst of evil. Now, this is part of the ones that makes a good movie. So he was a Benjaminite, and you remember Benjamin was the youngest of the 12 tribes, so they're considered like the poor cousins. They're not considered to be leaders. They're like looked down on. They're like, what are you doing here? The youngest, we don't need you around. You're just annoying. It's just that the lowest of the low. So for the Lord to raise someone out of that, it teaches us, like he does with most of our wonderful prophets, they come from low places. Joseph Smith did. Nephi did. Moses did. Noah did. President Monson, he did. How many else could you name? They don't come from these high wealthy places. Like Christ and God, they look to who is humble and teachable. Yeah, so be that. So anyway, he's a Benjaminite. Now they're under the king of Moab, and the king of Moab is a big fat guy called Eglon. Apparently Eglon means really round or something like that. I'm just like, oh, this guy must have been big. And we find that out because what happens is Ehud in verse 16 made a dagger the length of a cubit, which is 18 inches, right? That's more than that's a foot long sub plus another 6 inch. That's a big dagger, right? Huge. It's almost like a mini sword. But he makes this dagger and he straps it to his right thigh because he's left-handed. Now here's the other thing about being left-handed. They were considered almost handicapped, like they're special needs because they're left-handed. Thank goodness that isn't a thing anymore because there's nothing wrong with being left-handed. Perfectly fine writing with left-handed. It's annoying because the world is kind of suited towards the majority of right-handed people, but it's getting a lot better. But yeah, that he was considered like really low. And here's the surprise attack in the midst of evil. Because he was considered so low, they didn't see him as a threat. And that's how we want to be in it. We don't want to be perceived as a threat because then when the attack comes, we've got the advantage. So that's what we can learn. One of this is be the surprise attack in the midst of evil. So he gets this dagger strapped to his right leg and goes into Eglon and says, I've got something to tell. It's a secret. It's good information. And Eglon must have been, like, seriously, the king of Moab. They've been 18 years in captivity so far. And, like, you've got to be into gossip to really send out all your, like, people to want, as I said, seemingly the king enjoyed salacious gossip because he shewed everyone out of his bathroom. He was in his, like, what they would consider a bathroom back then. I mean, obviously they didn't have plumbing, so it was a room where you did bathroom things, okay? And like waited there, and they all went out. So Ehud's in there with Eglon. Now he puts his left hand forward. It says in 21, and Ehud put forth his left hand and took the dagger from his right thigh and thrust it into his belly. So he thrust it into Eglon's belly. Now here's where the good bit of the movie ends. So this is an 18-inch blade. foot long sub plus another 6 inch, right? Got it? It says, and the haft also went in after the blade. So the handle went in too. It's a big guy. And the fat closed upon the blade so that he could not draw the dagger out of his belly. And it says, and the dirt came out. Now the dirt coming out is probably fecal matter, because he would have stabbed him through the bowel and it would have leaked out. But he can't get his dagger back because it's disappeared into the guy. I mean, how gross is that? Ew. But again, surprise attack, because when he came in, they wouldn't have checked his right hand side for weapons because he was left-handed. And I said it, they considered him like handicapped, special needs, and the lowest of the low because he was a Benjaminite. He just descended from Benjamin. So yeah, he was the surprise attack. There's some really good, like, kind of Reuben-esque, very interesting type art if you Google this one and look at the images. Interesting. It's like it's an interesting one for you to have a look at. I'll leave that with you. But then he goes out and he shuts the doors, and because it's a bathroom, the servants don't go in there because they're like, oh, a master must, have stomach problems. Yeah, he's got a stomach problem. He's got an 18-inch blade in there. So we'll leave him in there for a bit until it was past that point of politeness. And then they go in and find that he's dead. Meanwhile, Ehud goes up into the Mount Ephraim, blows the trumpet, says, you guys are free, you can go. Well, you're not under this king anymore, this evil king. So, Ehud was the surprise attack in the midst of evil, and 80 years rest is granted after Ehud. So, again, this guy, Ehud, I'm thinking must have been in a good family to know the Lord and to know what the plan was and to go do this. We don't know much else of Ehud's reign other than him killing of the king, but there was peace and there was no oppression. So we're figuring he's a good guy. He was really smart. We're figuring he followed the Lord because coming up with a plan like that is genius. It's got to be inspired by the Lord. But yeah, the message from him, I think, is to be that surprise attack. If you're thinking that you're nothing, that's the biggest hero. My husband who does karate, and he'll say when you're saying it wrong, it's karate. And I'm like, yeah, right, karate. It really annoys him. So he's like a skinny old white guy. But you want to see him when he goes for it. I wouldn't fight him. He looks like you could snap him like a twig. And yet those are the guys you'd be most afraid of. The big burly guys, not so much. It's the little guys, because they're like fast and vicious. Bigger guys will thump you. But yeah, if you're fighting, which I used to get into some fights, that's what I did. You don't worry about the big people. You worry about the little ones. So if you're thinking that you're not much because you're little or you're nothing or you don't have skills or you're feeling that you're not that person, you can be the surprise attack in the midst of evil. So when evil's all around, you can be the powerful one. You can be the one with the biggest testimony. Maybe you're the one with the biggest sword strapped to your thigh that they're not going to check. Who knows, right? But if you can slip in undetected because they don't think you're a threat, but actually you carry Christ with you and you bring that gospel goodness, it's the surprise attack in the midst of evil, right there. You bring in the peace and the goodness and they're not expecting it. And you can do that. Doesn't matter who you descend from or what you look like or what's going on with you. You can bring the goodness in the midst of evil. Be that surprise attack on Satan. It's good stuff, right? Alright, so that one went a bit long, but really good story. And wouldn't it make a good movie? Like, you can imagine this massive blade and it just disappears into his stomach. Anyway, okay. Elder Uchtdorf, he said, whether you feel like a hero or not, you are one. So take that from Elder Uchtdorf. Whether you feel like a hero or not, you are one. You really are. And I tell you the same thing. You're a hero. You're doing amazing. It's hard out there and you're a hero. We all are. We can all be that. Especially if you're doing Come Follow Me and making an effort to live the gospel. You're a hero. You're going to be a hero. It's just amazing. So yeah, stick with that. All right. I'll see you for the next one. Hang around.